Well, thank you for joining me for yet another iTWire video with top IT executives. I have with me Adam Wengert. He is the Vice President of Avanade Australia. Welcome to the program, Adam.
Thanks so much, Alex. It's good to be here.
Thank you. So please tell us briefly about Avanade. It's been in business for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Remember, I was there at the Australian launch. It was a joint venture between Microsoft and Accenture. And here we are, 15 years later. So please tell us what Avanade is doing today and what your priorities are in the Australian market.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a great ride, and we're excited about our 15th birthday coming up.
And you were employee 400.
Somewhere around 400. The
Incredible.
Actual employee 400 might call me after this, but yeah. Somewhere in that neighborhood, November of 2000, and I started actually in Chicago in the United States, as you may be able to tell from my accent, not a native Australian. Mm-hmm. But I've been here in Australia for about 4 years, and we are in about 70 countries globally. We've got 22,000 professionals working for Avanade, and we've been here in Australia, as you very well know, for over 13 years. We're about 300 strong locally here in Australia.
Now, one of the things that you've been doing is, besides all the other work you do, is global survey results, which are very important. Yeah. Now, and one of the things you've spoken about is how hybrid cloud, and geez, I've heard a lot about hybrid cloud of late, but it's finally moving from hype to reality. So what are you seeing here in the Australian market in terms of hybrid cloud reaching the tipping point?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's neat to talk about here in Australia because Australia is ahead of the pack. On average, we're seeing, based on the results, it takes about 3 years for an organization to adopt a hybrid cloud and really have it be a part of how they're operating and not just as a strategy.
Yeah, as opposed to also just testing the waters and having a few servers. This is like all in.
You need to do real stuff with it. And in Australia, that's taking about 2 years. There are lots of reasons for that, but it's exciting to be here in this market where Australian companies are adopting hybrid cloud on average faster than anyone else globally. And I think the reason why we're seeing hybrid cloud be at a real tipping point is in part because of the maturity of the public cloud services in the first place. And with organizations like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, the big players and the small players adding more and more services in that space, customers want to take advantage of that.
And what in a nutshell is Avanade's advice?
Well, our advice really is start with a strategy. Based on our survey results, over 50% of tech decision makers know that hybrid cloud is important. At the same time, almost 3/4 of them don't have a strategy. So if you're going to take advantage of it, put a strategy in place. And when we think about strategy, we're thinking about the areas of focus like speed and agility, cost management, moving CapEx to OpEx. That's a bit obvious in the cloud space, but still critical. Governance is something that we view as crucial and that we're excited about from a focus perspective for us, being able to govern and still get that same flexibility. And finally, performance, being able to innovate and have a high-performance solution, something increasingly customers and users require in any solution.
So those are Avanade's recommendations, and obviously anyone watching that wants your services will get a much more personalized and detailed look at how their business works. But obviously C-level executives are optimistic about it, especially in this market. Yeah. But there's confusion in the enterprise space about hybrid cloud. I mean, there's so many choices. So what do you say to that?
Well, a couple things. I mean, just speaking to the frame, if you will, those C-level folks, the CMOs and the CEOs, they want choice, and that's what hybrid cloud brings. Or, of course, public cloud brings a ton of choice. So they might be reading an article on an airplane, the bane of every CIO, and come back and say, why can't I have this? And there was a recent article posted from Gartner, some research done by Gartner, where they asked CIOs, hey, how many public cloud services do you have in your enterprise? And on average, the CIOs came back and said about 30. When they dug in, it was closer to 300.
And that's because of things like email services and things that might not think of.
You name it, small ERP, mom and pop ERP shops that a division might have picked up and said, we need this. Digital marketing is a place where we spend a lot of time helping customers as well. So, what that tells us is CIOs aren't in that conversation. And this is what we're excited about when we think about hybrid cloud and bringing that combination of flexibility and accessibility, speed to market. CEO comes in with that article. The CIOs now, IT can say, yeah, let's do it, because we have a framework in which to integrate and deal with the regulatory pressures, some of the security and data concerns, and still capitalize on that speed to market impetus that the business is driving.
And if the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, didn't know about these 10 times as many clouds, I mean, must be a lot of people who are BYOC, bring your own cloud.
Well, that's exactly right. But they're doing it because they're trying to address a business outcome.
Yeah, need.
Absolutely.
So beyond what you've said, what else can Australian organisations be doing to best prepare for the hybrid cloud approach? I mean, you might go over some of what you already said. But
yeah, no, and there are a couple specifics, and these might actually get a little too tactical, but things like data classification. If you're going to run into constraints where somebody in the organization is going to say, we can't share that information, it's important that you know that that's true. It turns out there are some really leading organizations in financial services and in utilities here in Australia that are doing the regulatory work to figure out what really does represent sensitive information. They're not being flamboyant with the data, but you want to make sure you're securing the right stuff in the right places at the right time and not going overboard. So being able to classify the information that you care about in your applications is crucial to then know what are your options when you want to take advantage of that flexibility that we've been talking about. So I think that's one side. There's also what I think of as a supply and demand story. On the demand side, you've got new applications that organizations need to go build right now. So when a business user comes to you in an IT organization and says, I want this, you should think about deploying that into the public cloud and using hybrid cloud today, and then hook it up to any legacy systems or other on-prem private cloud systems where that data is currently stored. The supply side is the portfolio of applications that you have. This is a longer journey, but you need to be thinking in your strategy, how are you going to start to decompose that portfolio of applications and take advantage of the hybrid cloud to address those things we talked about: governance, speed to market, cost, et cetera.
And of course, you have always got the issues of security, and then even government spanners in the works like this potential data retention, which people think is going to affect ISPs, but could affect anybody running a website.
Well, it absolutely could, and being aware of that and being on a platform that allows you to land policy-driven decisions. That's a big part of why Accenture and Microsoft, our parents, have made the investments they've made in the Accenture hybrid cloud solution for Microsoft Azure, because that is a policy-driven approach to being able to integrate those cloud solutions. And not to say you don't need to worry about it, but you worry about it once and get that policy in place, and now you have a framework to manage that effectively.
So let's look at the future, say the next 12 months, and then looking into the crystal ball over the next 5 or 10 years for the hybrid cloud and beyond, whatever that might be.
Well, as an ankle-wearing Fitbit entrepreneur that you are, Alex, I will say we're very excited about the Internet of Things.
Sure.
And the reality in
another huge buzzword.
No,
that is real.
And I apologize, but how do you do one of these without saying IoT? But sincerely, when you think about what hybrid cloud brings to that story, it's a combination of things. So one, imagine Fitbit being used by a health provider. This is not information that you want to share willy-nilly. This is data you need to store securely, and you need to align to regulations. At the same time, you want to draw insights from that data, and you need solutions to help you do that. So being able to separate where and how you store that data safely, and also being able to then scale out to capture the information from a range of sensors and devices like Fitbit. I love that sort of dichotomy, and it's a great example of why hybrid cloud is so important and where things are going. So for me, hybrid cloud is going to enable a whole bunch of those style of applications and engagements.
Now, I did go to an Ashton Kutcher event last week with Lenovo, and everyone I've spoken to since I've asked them, one of the questions he recommended people ask, which was, what's the best advice that you've ever received to get you to where you are today?
Well, when Ashton and I were hanging out after that party, oh wait, that didn't happen. But the best advice I've ever been given that got me where I am is a bit of boring advice, but it was stay close to customers. Being relevant and making sure that the work that you're doing has a business lean to it, adds value to customers, and staying sharp, forcing yourself to not just wave your hands and tell these stories, but to know that they're going to add value. Honestly, that's the best advice that I've ever gotten, and I've stuck with it since. I had to come to Australia to stay near customers, but so far it's working.
Well, I'm sure those customers are very happy. Now, another question he asked, and this was of companies he was thinking of investing in, and it was to do with the people behind those companies, not just their ideas. But then Avanade is asking its customers to invest in it and vice versa. So he wanted to know, what was your high school hustle or some sort of cool hack that you had when you were younger to make your life or the life of your friends and family better?
Well, I had pretty much gone full geek by high school, so I'll tell you my primary school hustle. And it's ironic because I work for a company that's partially owned by Microsoft, and I am a Microsoft tech head. But when I was 11, I had a little box that was a bit of a lockbox. It had a combination on it. I thought it was cool as. And in it, I had a stack of the original Macintosh stickers, the colored ones, just the apple. And I used to sell those for $0.25 per sticker. And I probably made like 30 bucks off of this. I forget where I got the stickers. I probably stole them from my dad, who got them from a conference. But I used to walk around with this lockbox, and people would buy these stickers from me.
Which is very cool. I mean, that's what. I mean, these days it's probably would be sticker apps or something. But back then, you know, everyone loved them. Right. And of course, in the US, you see stickers on all the bumpers of the car. So it's a very popular thing.
Yeah.
So, any final messages for iTWire readers and for potential and future for current and future Avanade customers?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk about the topic. I think, you know, if it hasn't come across clearly, we're very excited about what's going on in cloud and with Microsoft. To see Microsoft looking at things in a cross-platform perspective, being open. I mean, for God's sakes, you've got Salesforce running on Azure. How did that happen? So these are exciting times for us, and Avanade being in a position to help tell that story and realize results on the Microsoft platform, we're really excited about that. So that's probably the main thing I want to get across.
Okay, Adam, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.